Okay. Today, my guest is Professor Esther Tippmann. I'll keep my introduction short to maximize our time with her. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Esther as a person, Professor Tippmann as a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally, as a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of her accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Tippmann's research is on strategic challenges of internationally operating organizations, including multinational corporations and high-growth ventures. She has published extensively in our top journals such as JIBS, Org Studies, Journal of World Business, Journal of Management Studies, Global Strategy Journal, Harvard Business Review, and Sloan Management Review, among others. She received several awards and nominations from AOM, AIB, and SMS. She also received the Best Paper or Best Reviewer Award at JIBS, Journal of World Business, and AIB UK Ireland chapter. Esther currently serves as senior editor for the Journal of World Business and sits on editorial boards of JIBS and Long Range Planning. She held a Marie Curie Fellowship funded by the European Commission and Irish Research Council. Thank you, Esther, for joining us.
Thank you, Ilgat. I'm delighted to be with you today.
Esther, thank you. Esther, what did you want to become when you were a child?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's probably not one you ponder about a lot unless you're being asked to reflect back over your childhood. And I don't think I had a lot of set aspirations, but I recall at some stage I was thinking about becoming a pilot. And I suppose that made me also think that in the context of, today's discussion, right, as an IB scholar, or I'm invited as an IB scholar, I thought maybe it had to do with this opportunity it offers to explore the world, maybe to travel. So I perhaps had a somewhat naive view on being a pilot as a child, but I think it's good I didn't choose it as a career path because I don't think I would pass the eye test anymore. But so I was told at my last eye visit. But anyhow, yeah, it's a pilot at some stage.
Can you remember the earliest moment of awareness between foreign versus domestic?
Yeah, actually, they go back early into my childhood. So I'm a German national. I grew up in Germany. Obviously, now I'm based in Ireland. But in fact, I grew up in East Germany. So during the Cold War times and before the war, the Berlin Wall came down and Germany reunited. So I suppose memories of borders, differences, ideological differences in that case, around the Cold War at that time. Also around imported goods, funny enough. Obviously we had everything that we needed, but imported goods were something special for us at that time, especially imported goods, let's say, from the US or from West Germany, right? That was something very, very special, very rare, bananas. So I have memories. In regards to me as a child eating a banana, and it felt like bite by bite, and it probably took me, I don't know, it felt like eating it for an hour, right? Because it was something really, really treasured, really, really rare that we didn't get often. Obviously, you don't need bananas, right? But it had that association of being something really special. Yeah, and obviously also have memories of the wall coming down, reunification. So also maybe in a broader sense about movement of people across borders then, and in that sense. So a lot of memories. Obviously as a child, I didn't think about it in an IB context, but I think, yeah, definitely domestic, foreign, international business, international relations. So it was probably something that imprinted on me from quite early on.
Interesting. I remember almost the same story. It was not bananas, it was kiwi. I don't even like kiwis. It's just we actually made a special trip to the store just to see what it looks like. I do remember as a child, and they said, "Oh, this is coming from such and such place."
Exactly. Any kind of tropical fruits, right? I was probably exposed to when I was quite an old child, right? So yeah, something. In fact, kiwi, I didn't even know how to eat it. We were like, honestly, I thought, do I need to eat it with the skin? Do I just eat it in it? But how do I eat a kiwi? Yeah, absolutely.
Now people just Google it on YouTube. There's how to do certain things, right? At the time, there was
Google
nothing.
At that time. There wasn't a Google at that time, I guess.
That's right. So it is quite interesting. So Esther, how did you choose academia? And within academia, how did you choose international business?
Yeah, so it was probably something that I stumbled into, at least the academic career. I think this IB angle has been with me for some time. I mean, in terms of my education, so to speak, my higher education. So even as my undergrad degree, I chose intercultural management. So again, something very at the heart of IB. And I think back then I didn't understand much about business and management. I mean, honestly, it wasn't of the business and management that I chose it, but again, because of that international dimension. And I thought, well, naive as I was at that time, if I get to work for an international organization, I get all these great international opportunities, maybe to travel again and to see different places of the world and have exposure to IB in a broad sense. So I think that's what appealed to me at that time. It continued for my postgraduate, again, a master's in international business, and also for my PhD topic, obviously. Academic career, again, I was quite naive, probably starting out or choosing even to do a PhD. It was back then a friend of mine who said, oh, you know, there's some PhD scholarships up for grasps. I think you may be good at it. I got offered a scholarship, naively enough, I suppose at the time I took it, and it worked out for me. But I probably would find that I should have done a little bit more research, right, around what it means to be a scholar or an academic.
If you could do it all over again, what's the second best career path for you?
Yeah, I think about in terms of the impact that a career can have, I think medicine appeals to me because it's about saving lives. Obviously, we're trying to have a good impact on business and society and organizations as scholars in management or international business. But I think this immediate impact that medics can have, or people in the medical profession, I think that's something that appeals to me. I have a little challenge, though. I can't see blood. I'm not good at seeing blood. So I don't think it's a viable option. But I think if I was capable, I think it would appeal to me, yeah.
But after seeing so many, you get this interest, you lose the sensitivity to it. So you would actually even be a surgeon.
Maybe.
So regrets about what kind of a person are you about this? Do you consider I should have done this, I should have done that? Do you second guess yourself?
Not much, to be honest, Ilgat. I tend to be more one that looks at opportunities that might be coming down the line. I tend to be more forward-looking than backward-looking. In that sense, also, I don't have regrets. I mean, maybe there were things maybe that didn't go as smooth as I had hoped, but then, you know, I took them as learning and move on. No, I don't think I have regrets, no.
Interesting. About what are you most proud of?
Yeah, my family. Yeah, I have to say, yeah, so my husband and two kids. So yeah, no, they keep me busy. I think we love hanging out together, lots of fun together. I also think a great source of support, a great source of energy also, I think, and generally balance. I mean, obviously we have busy careers as academics. So it's nice to have that anchor and that support and this really fun place, fun environment in my life. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. And that would be, where I've spent a lot of my passion.
What are you most passionate about?
When it comes to my family, do you mean? Or,
in general?
I think I like, as I said, it's mostly my family that I would feel strongly about and most passionate about.
Okay.
And then obviously it's, I mean, look, I think academics, oftentimes we are in love with our research, right? I mean, that probably somewhat goes without saying, but I would see it as second. I would see it as second compared to my family.
Interesting. Something that is not on your CV, but you think people might find interesting about you.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I did gymnastics, so I was quite passionate about it. Not that I was particularly good, but you know, I enjoyed it. And also, you know, as you ask about it, I also was reflecting maybe how it relates maybe to a scholarly career, perhaps, or generally an academic career. And I was thinking maybe one thing is also then I had a coaching license. So, I did it myself, but I was also a coach. So I think maybe again, there was maybe some kind of inclination, right? Or some kind of initial training to help me with an academic career going forward.
Coaching in what?
Gymnastics.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. When I was younger. Yeah. So exactly. So I did that. As I said, I enjoyed it myself doing the gymnastics, but I was also a coach. As I said, nothing too exciting in terms of level, or nothing in terms of maybe being at a very high level, but just generally, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the engagement with the club, with the team, with the kids. But I also felt, looking back at doing gymnastics, you have to perform your routine, and you're out on a stage, so to speak, and you're being judged. And you're being subjected in a sense to a peer review. You get a score, you get feedback, and maybe, and you have to learn to take it on board and live with it. And sometimes it's good feedback, sometimes not so good. So again, I think maybe just there's maybe something, I suppose, that helped me also getting used to maybe later in an academic career to peer review, right? Not to take it too personal, to take the good things out of it, to iterate maybe on things until they get better. Yeah, so maybe that's something. I just try to see maybe some parallels here in terms of maybe some earlier experiences and how they maybe helped me with an IB career or a scholarly career.
True. But the feedback is almost immediate, right? Right after the performance, they give you 8 points, 9 points. With the review process, it's months, years.
Sure. For sure it's longer. With the video process, I think you can open that email in a closed room. And if it's bad feedback, you can do whatever you want with it, right? Nobody will see you. When you're out there competing and you get your score, you have to be, I try to be, in the moment, react somewhat professionally to it, and still act on it and going back to the gym and trying to improve. So maybe the timing things work slightly differently, but I think maybe having this opportunity for us to digest it at our own pace and absorb it in our own pace, in our own way, that can also be useful, because I think we all know, when we get maybe a review that wasn't a positive, it might take a few days, a few weeks to sink in.
Good point. Esther, how do you explain your research to people who don't read our academic journals regularly, to people on the street? Say you're stranded in a small village, people don't know anything about you. And how do you explain the importance of your research to these people?
Yeah, no, sure. I suppose it's something we do struggle with sometimes, don't we? We have to explain it to family, friends, and maybe also others. Yeah. So, most of my recent research is in the context of digital businesses. So typically what I would start out is by saying, look, I research obviously digital firms. They're the ones that are born on the internet. And obviously a lot of companies now that are born on the internet and become large international organizations quite quickly. So there's definitely opportunities and benefits for them to internationalize, but also a lot of those companies fail. So really what I'm trying to do is, I try to understand how leaders and managers can make their international organizations successful. And then, I specifically within that, I would be interested in the international offices, what contribution they can make to the success of the organization. But also, I suppose, just trying to think generally, I suppose, around the pacing and the speed of their scaling internationally, because by being born on the internet, you have immediate international reach, and it seems easy to become a global international powerhouse, but a lot of firms fail, or it doesn't go smooth for them. So again, really trying to help leaders and managers on that journey.
Thank you. About things that we should have done more of, things that we have neglected in IB research, omitted variables, omitted concepts, contexts, constructs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, generally probably in IB, we do a lot of firm level research. We do a lot of research, perhaps also built on secondary data, oftentimes not a primary data collection. So I suppose where my passion lies with is often with case study type of research. So really going into the organizations and really understanding the nuts and bolts, the mechanisms of how these things work or don't work. That's maybe, I suppose, somewhat a personal preference, but I think in general, reflecting more widely on IB, I think there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm just really unpacking the mechanisms in detail to go more micro level, if we want to use that label, for example. And then obviously we have a lot of new phenomena out there. I mean, even with COVID, I mean, there's so many new interesting questions that need to be answered around the right organizational model. What's the best way of leveraging remote, hybrid opportunities to hire anywhere now around the globe? What is it the right thing to do? How to make it work? So a lot of questions, even new questions, new phenomena that need exploring.
About the next 5 to 10 years of the field, what are some of the topics that you think we'll see in growing numbers, especially for the PhD students to think about pursuing?
Yes, I generally think with the acceleration of digitalization, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I mean, generally these kind of technological trends, they're offering great opportunities. Again, I think where we don't have done enough yet is to really understand. I mean, digital firms often, we're not differentiating a lot yet. I think in IB research, we're kind of, we know digitalization enables international business activity. But to really unpack that for different types of digital firms, to unpack that really, how that really works, under what condition that is, under what conditions that really holds. So I think there's a lot of scope here. Then I also already alluded, I suppose, to maybe the post-COVID world. I mean, we know we're not going to go back to the same. So what are the remote working models, the hybrid organizational models, and what is the IB dimension within that? And then it has all kinds of coordination, control questions, really, knowledge recombination, innovation questions. I mean, really, these kind of new ways how multinationals, international organizations can operate, they stretch, I think, across really some core and central questions that IB scholars would traditionally deal with. I also think geopolitics, and particularly forces that push maybe against international business activity that we see. And most recently, for example, I suppose the unfortunate war in Ukraine. So, again, a lot of interesting questions there, I think, where we can, a lot of interesting questions that can be explored further.
Thank you. How does the process for your work, for coming up with creative ideas, when you're sitting idle, how does the process in the creation of new papers come for you?
I take most of my inspiration from practitioners, I have to say. So I really try to stay, I mean, my research is at the intersection of IB strategies or global strategy. So I really try to stay attuned to the latest developments with the top managers or senior managers in international organization would speak about what keeps them awake. So I try to start there if at all possible. And obviously I'm based in Ireland, so we have a huge FDI presence, in particular North American firms. So most of the large US tech firms would have major international operations here, like significant number of employees, strategic headquarters, European headquarters, global headquarters. So we also have a good level of support, I suppose, in terms of getting access to organization. So there's a great and very vibrant, I suppose, FDI community here with very senior leaders who have very good insights into those kind of issues, and very, very, very well connected into those networks. So that's really where I take my inspiration from.
Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to get to the advice mentoring portion. Who was your advisor going through the PhD program?
So sorry, what you guys want advice?
who was your advisor when you were going through the PhD program?
Oh yeah, so I had Professor Pamela Sharkey-Scott and Professor Vincent Marchmartin as PhD advisors.
And what was the best advice you received when you were going through the programs yourself?
I have to listen, listen as in being able to work from to try to really get most out of feedback that I receive. So sometimes, when senior scholars as a PhD student give you feedback, it might take quite some time to digest it because there's so much tacit knowledge involved when senior scholars give you feedback. Mm-hmm. And I think that what was meant. It wasn't that I don't listen per se, but it was like, it will take you some time to really understand and to really digest what is meant with that feedback. And there's so much great support out there. Like, if you go to PhD consortia or paper development workshops, you can really pick up important advice. And senior scholars are very quick to pick up on the key things that maybe that you need to improve upon. But it may not be so easy for you as a PhD student studying out to decipher what is really meant. So I think it was meant in that context to spend a lot of time trying to digest it, to understand and to hear what they're saying.
Yeah. So in your opinion, which skills are most difficult to develop? At least for you, which skills were more difficult for you to develop, and it took time to let it sink?
So you meant for me when I was a PhD student? That takes, I think generally PhD is a demanding journey. You have to, there's a lot of things that are going on, right? You have to get on top of theory, you have to get on top of methods, and you have to understand academia generally, how to play the game, if that makes sense, or what kind of critical steps you may have to take to set you up in a good way. So I think it's hugely demanding what we require, or what is asked of a PhD student in a quite short amount of time. And also, at least in Europe, traditionally would be seen as a sort of an apprenticeship type of thing. But nowadays you do an apprenticeship, but you're meant to come up with a masterpiece nearly, right? Like something that can be published in a top tier journal. I know it's a strong analogy, but you're on that trajectory ideally, right? That you come up with something that is publishable in a really high quality outlet. So I think probably, so I found that's probably that. I think that generally that journey in itself is demanding. But as I said, I think there's a lot of goodwill out there and a lot of support. And it's maybe your mentors, it's your PhD friends, it's the international network that you start to build on your own. And if you use that wisely, I think it can really enable you as a PhD student to set you up for success.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see junior faculty or PhD students make, and things that you say you should not do?
Yeah, so I think generally, one thing that is also important, and maybe that also relates to perhaps what not to do, is I think it's important, I found at least for myself, that you're really passionate about the topic. That you're really, really interested into it. If it's maybe you being handed with a PhD topic, or you being invited to join a project, but your heart and soul isn't into it, I think it can be really draining on you emotionally and in terms of your own energy, right? Because we spend a lot of time with it, and it's not just for your PhD, really. Like, it's like nearly a career trajectory, at least for a couple of years, that you're starting to build and want to leverage as a platform for your first couple of years in your career, at least. So I think that having a true sense of passion that you really think, that excites me, I think that will carry and sustain you and help with a lot of things, because I think a lot in our career is about resilience and perseverance.
True. Does it change for mid-career people? Do these things change for mid-career people? Advice, different perspective?
Maybe not so much. maybe then your independence as a scholar perhaps becomes more important. I mean, obviously at the start, you know, your advisors and supervisors may help you with introductions or your co-author. But then obviously, yeah, building your research independence probably becomes a logical next step.
Sure.
But I don't think it goes away that you have to be passionate about it, that you need a good support network. I mean, I don't think that will go away. Perhaps you're adding something onto it. That's perhaps how I would think about it.
Esther, is there a question that I should have asked you but haven't?
Sorry?
Is there a question I should have asked you but haven't? Oh,
I think we've covered a lot. And I really enjoyed our conversation. Had great fun, as I said to you earlier, listening back to some of the other scholars and meeting some of the other scholars, I suppose, for a second time nearly, right? Listening to the talks. So I think it's a wonderful initiative, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Thank you. It was very helpful for me. It was interesting for me. I'm sure the audience will agree with it. Esther, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Ilgas. All the best. Thank you.